City of Gangsters, a turn-based management tycoon sim set in a world of organised crime and the alcohol prohibition era of 1920s America. Build speakeasies and distilleries, managing production and distribution chains, extort businesses, and bribe the authorities to look the other way.
I'm a cop, and you will respect my authority!
Start your criminal operation from the ground up, battle with rival gangs, and grow your operation into an empire. Although City of Gangsters is set in the golden era of organised crime, can it be considered a steal of a game? Or likewise, with all the alcohol the government confiscated in this era, should the game simply be flushed down the toilet? Stick around to find out if this game is worth your time and money. My name's Dav and welcome to D&DGaming. Joining me in reviewing this game is my brother Dale. So what are your initial thoughts on City of Gangsters?
Well, I like to look at this one straight away, as it was clearly a throwback to the top-down isometric gangster series of the late 1990s. To be honest, I was hoping this was basically a modern remake of that series, as I enjoyed the hell out of those games back in the day, and still have a copy of the first Gangsters game on my system. Unfortunately, I quite quickly realised this wasn't on the same level.
Yeah, so for me, I'd not heard of the game before, but when coming across this, as Dale did, I thought back to the 1990s Gangsters, a great classic strategy game from a golden era of gaming. City of Gangsters is not only a totally different style of Gangsters game, doesn't come remotely close or ever will it be considered a classic, I'm afraid. Spoiler alert, you can probably already see where I'm going with this review.
I hope you're not using the toilet, it's broken.
Huh?
So in terms of graphic options, these are very limited, and it's basically just 4 options for visual quality ranging from minimal to highest, and then a few VSync options. There's no advanced options menu.
Yep, very basic graphics options here, about par for the course for a management sim type game, but it would have been nice to see a few extra options to tweak.
As for graphics and graphics performance, our PC specs are up on screen as usual and the game ran smoothly on my PC, no gripes here. As for graphics themselves, I have no issue with low polygon graphics as they are in this game, and in many games that graphic style works. In this though, the low polygon style isn't the problem. The problem in my opinion lies with the colour and the cartoony style. Everything just looks washed out of colour and bland, and also a bit too cartoony. For me, combined with the gangster style game, it just didn't work.
The game ran well on my system with no noticeable issues, but that was about the only good thing here, to be honest. I'm not a fan at all of this graphic style. I thought it might grow on me, but it didn't, unfortunately. It just looks far too low effort and there's nothing appealing about it. Don't get me wrong, low polygon cartoony style graphics can absolutely work in many games, but this just doesn't work at all in my opinion. In terms of the player controls, well, these are about what you'd expect from this type of game, and the tutorial takes you through the basics of manoeuvring the camera and the keyboard shortcuts. No issues here for me, and all standard controls with nothing quirky or unusual.
Yeah, as Dale's pointed out, it's very basic, but no real issues at all. It's a mix of keyboard and mouse to scroll and move around the view with mouse clicks to select and interact. Nothing more I can say really on this point. So in terms of game modes, there's just one main game mode. The year is 1920, the start of the alcohol prohibition in America. Overnight, Congress orders the closure of bars and saloons across the country and alcohol becomes illegal. This dawns an era of black markets, illegal manufacture and smuggling. On the game mechanics front, it's quite a deep game. The game starts as a tutorial, and once you've learnt the basics, it opens up into a full game, with just occasional hints popping up to alert you of new things. You start with a small area of a city that is your corner. You start with a small operation, and from here you can begin to build your empire. Using the turn-based mechanics, you drive around the area discovering new corners, speaking to business owners and expanding your operation. You can extort local businesses and offer protection for regular payments. Or alternatively, you can look to gain the trust of local business owners by buying and selling items and calling in favours. As they begin to trust you, some will allow you to set up fronts and aid you in your illegal operations behind. As your operation grows, as does your ability to expand, you can recruit gang members and send them out on pre-set up errands, buying and selling, extorting, fighting and collecting, all to bolster your empire while you sit back and reap the rewards. As you grow, your operation is noticed by rival gangs and authorities. You have options and ways to deal with these threats to your empire, including fighting and bribing.
Just to add, there is a big difference between this and other similar management tycoon games in that this is turn-based rather than real-time, so if you go into this expecting your standard real-time strategy, it will catch you off guard. It's also worth mentioning that the game map is heavily RNG based. Each time you start a new game, the city will be procedurally generated. The neighbourhoods and many landmarks will still be there, but the people and locations of businesses will change with each new playthrough.
So in terms of UI, the UI is quite extensive, lots going on, as management sims tend to be. It's relatively intuitive once you get your head around the icons and functions, of which there are a lot.
Good UI is absolutely key for this type of game, and I thought the UI was decent enough. As you'd expect, there's a huge amount of info available for you to consider in making your decisions. There's also no lack of overlays to let you know what items are sold where, and other info such as where your rivals are and whether there are any police in the area.
You will respect my authority.
So in terms of sound and music, the music's very generic jazz coffee shop style music. It does work for the game style, but it's pretty generic. Game sounds are okay, nothing stand out, but nothing too bad either, I guess.
Yeah, I thought the music was appropriate for the genre and time period, but nothing really excels here. I was hoping for more music like perhaps Theme Hospital, where it really gets stuck in your head, but this mostly sounded like it was trying to emulate that, but with not much success. It does also get a bit repetitive. The ambient sounds are all fine, such as car horns going off and exhaust sounds when you zoom down to street level. So in terms of bugs and glitches, I didn't find any particular bugs or anything, but I did notice that the cars just clip through each other with no collision or anything. It's a bit poor, as you could expect there to be some collision mechanics in this one.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't notice any bugs on my playthrough. So to sum up things I liked about the game, I'm really struggling to find good things to say about this game, and I'm genuinely disappointed that this is the case. I guess the music was, although generic, was fitting in its style. I like the way you start in the tutorial, and rather than changing modes or going back to the main game menu to start a main game, it simply finishes and blends seamlessly into the main game. I liked opening up of fronts and building up an empire from protecting and extorting the local businesses, hiding the illicit goings on behind.
As for things I liked about it, I also thought the tutorial was decent enough, and I do like games where you actually get to play along through the tutorial rather than just sitting through a load of text. It worked well here to introduce you to the basics of the game before eventually leaving you on your own. I did like the setting, and the 1920s time period is the perfect setting for any gangsters related game.
So in terms of things I didn't like about the game, for me the game loop is far too boring. I found I was just dragging myself through conversations with the business owners, with the game largely repeating the same cycle of buy, sell, help standing with another business, use up a favour, or see you later. It's just very grindy and repetitive. I didn't feel the turn-based style worked with the overall strategy and management style of building a gangster empire and taking over the city. It just felt limiting, too much on rails, and just another hurdle that didn't need to be there. In terms of a mechanic, it didn't seem to bring anything to the game at all. An open field to the game without the turn-based element would have been far better in my opinion. The bland and washed out colours from a graphic standpoint just didn't work for me, as mentioned in the graphics section. The lack of combat just added to the boredom. At one point a message popped up for me saying that one of my gang had been in a fight and needed to go back to the base to recuperate. Turned out it was my character that was hurt, yet other than a pop-up message, there was no indication that it was me. There was no pause or change in the gameplay format as I moved around. Simply a heart icon appeared in my inventory area to indicate it.
As for things I didn't like, I'm just not a fan of the graphic style, and it started to grate on me after a while. Whilst I usually really enjoy turn-based games, I just don't think this style works here, and there's a good reason the vast majority of similar management tycoon games use real-time, as it just works better for this style of game. Most of the early part of the game is just taking stock of the products you have and setting up automated systems so you can sell your products and pick up the cash. It's hardly an in-depth management sim in that respect. I was quite surprised at the general lack of actual gang warfare. It seems that even if you play with a more aggressive play style, probably about 90% of the game is about building up support, networking, and setting up intricate delivery routes. It feels at times like the gangster element is just a front. See what I did there? For what is a basic resource management tycoon game.
So Darryl, do you think there's any missed opportunities in this?
It would have been nice to see more content included in the base game, such as a challenge mode or scenarios. As with many games these days, it seems this sort of content is deliberately not included, so they then can release it as DLC to bring in more money at a later date.
So in terms of scores, what do you think on this one, Darryl?
I found City of Gangsters to be a middle-of-the-road game with nothing outstanding and not enough for me to want to continue playing it. It might just be enough to satisfy fans of strategy and management games, especially those with an interest in the Prohibition era. If you're looking for a management sim set in this period, be sure to give it a try. Whilst I did enjoy the setting of the game, it wasn't enough to make me really enjoy it though. The low effort cut and paste graphics and the repetitive gameplay loop means it would be a middling 6 out of 10 from me.
I think City of Gangsters is one of those games that will suit some people but not others. A kind of if you're into this sort of thing situation. For me, it's a shame because I like management tycoon games, and with a gangster theme to it, I thought it was going to be right up my street, and I desperately wanted to like this game, but I couldn't bring myself to. I just simply couldn't get a foothold in it, and no matter how many times I thought, okay, I'm fed up, I'm bored with this now, I'll put it down and pick it up again later, every time I came back to it, I just got bored within minutes with the game loop just grinding on me. Therefore, for me, it's a disappointing 5 out of 10. Well guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, and we'll see you in the next one.